I'm sitting in the basement of a major hospital in the biggest city in the United States, and yet I have no cell phone reception. Believe it or not, that's not even the most important reason that doctors still use pagers today. My name's Max Feinstein, and I'm an anesthesiologist recording at the Mount Sinai Hospital in New York City. And in this video, I explain why this ancient relic that predates my own childhood still plays a major role in healthcare communication. You may have noticed being in a hospital that they tend not to have great cell phone reception, and I'm not the only one who's noticed this.
Service can be an issue in hospitals. You're underground some of the time. Hospitals are made of things that make service not work well, apparently, based on my experience.
And then when I started to do research for this video, I found an astute comment by Shaka1277 on Reddit, who pointed out that there's tons of shielding everywhere in hospitals, especially around the X-ray, CT, and MRI scanners. When I started digging into slightly more reputable sources, it became apparent that hospitals are intentionally designed with walls that are supposed to stop penetrating X-ray signals, which is a safety mechanism to reduce bystander exposure to ionizing radiation. In the case of MRIs, that actually stops an extremely strong magnetic force from attracting metal, like the camera that's directly in front of me, from slamming into the MRI scanner and hitting anything along the way. Incidentally, the materials that are used to build these really thick walls do also stop cell phone signal from going through, which is why it's pretty common for basements, which often contain any sort of imaging equipment in hospitals, to not have very good reception. By contrast to cell phones that use frequencies that are easily blocked by these thick walls, pagers actually use a frequency that's very similar to FM radio that has really excellent distance and great penetration through thick walls and metal barriers. And that's just one of several really important reasons why pagers are more reliable in a hospital setting than cell phones are. Another big advantage is the fact that by their very primitive nature, pagers are just one-way communication devices, meaning there's not that much traffic, relatively speaking, on the networks on which they operate. By contrast, cell phone networks can be extremely busy, so the extra amount of traffic on the network can make cell phones less reliable. That means that under emergency circumstances like a natural disaster or a terrorist attack, that a cell phone network is less likely to be reliable, but the pager is most likely to continue working. As you can imagine, that kind of reliability from pagers is a huge asset for medical professionals during emergency circumstances. My cell phone still doesn't get reception here. You might find yourself asking, what could possibly be so important that it couldn't wait until I get out of the basement and finally get some reception? Well, if you've watched some of my older videos, here we go. You've seen that anesthesiologists can have emergency responsibilities throughout the hospital, including responding to pages for emergency airway situations, or cardiac arrests anywhere in the hospital, or going down to the emergency department if a patient is being brought in by emergency medical services for being in a traumatic accident. These are just some examples of some of the most time-sensitive issues that anesthesiologists can get paged for. And of course, doctors from basically every specialty have some time-sensitive issues that need to be addressed right away, so reliability for communication devices is of the utmost importance. A very underrated benefit of pagers is their exceptionally long battery life. So when I'm on call and things are quiet, I'm in the call room and I put my head on my pillow, I don't have to worry when I go to sleep that I'm going to miss a page because my pager ran out of batteries. That just doesn't happen. If you've ever used a pager before, you know that this thing really doesn't go down without a fight. If it's running out of batteries, it'll let you know. Also, for as ridiculous as this sounds, the fact that these are so simple and standardized across hospitals means that there's effectively no learning curve if you go from one hospital to the next, so you automatically know how to use the emergency paging system. One brief anecdote I'll share is that while I was in residency, I actually spent some time training physicians on how to use a new electronic health system that was being rolled out in a different hospital. And while most of them were up for the task of figuring out how to use it, some of them, particularly those who were close to the end of their career anyways, literally just quit because they didn't want to learn how to use the new electronic health record system. So anyways, you basically never have to worry about that with the pager. And for as much as I despise the ringtones or whatever the sounds of a pager are called, you can't deny that they're extremely effective in getting your attention. And just a trigger warning for anyone who's used a pager before, but this is what they can sound like. And of course, who could deny how cool it is to walk around with a pager on your hip? At least that's what I thought when I was a third-year med student. So aren't there any better systems in place that can help me communicate if I, say, find myself in a basement and don't have any service? For a while now, some hospital systems have rolled out chat systems through the electronic health record, which can be accessed in some circumstances by employees that are using their cell phones connected to hospital Wi-Fi. But again, hospital Wi-Fi is not necessarily going to be as reliable as the frequencies that are used for pagers. And that also kind of brings us back to square one, because if employees have to depend on their cell phone, then they could run out of batteries more easily or have some sort of malfunction, whereas pagers just tend to be more reliable. And a lot of healthcare professionals actually use messaging services like WhatsApp to get in touch with people, but there can be privacy issues associated with that, and again, that relies on someone using their cell phone. So right now in 2023, many doctors employ a hybrid system where they have some sort of messaging system that they use on their cell phone, as well as a pager that they use for more critical circumstances. If you enjoyed this video, you might want to check out this video that I made where I show what it's like being an anesthesiologist on trauma call that involves responding to a lot of emergency pages. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you next time.